Hello, this is Christoph with Kaiserworks presenting New Valley. This is the existing image that I'm going to start us out with, looking at the main entry, the existing condition of the building. On the left here, we've got the oleanders, beyond which is the canal. You can see a snippet of the canal over there. We have our asphalt parking lot that sort of comes right into the entry moment. And we have this original tower that was originally intended to terminate inside of a garden. This was a garden wall, beyond which was landscaping. And in what we're proposing, we're intending to recapture a moment of this. This is something that, like a lot of the things we'll be presenting in these images, can be taken a la carte. You can take one moment and not the other. For example, we're sort of showing the best of. So in this design proposal, we are taking this small portion of the addition and removing it again so that the tower terminates in this case into a water feature. And we're also removing the roof plane that's above this, and that moves this back towards the direction of sculpture, which I think this really wants to be. And so we simply have the armature that's the structural component of this existing tower, grabbing the cross and being the support of the cross, and otherwise is open to the sky. We feel this makes a very poetic and strong gesture, especially terminating in a water feature. We're proposing we remove this small section of wall that is the sort of the last approximately 10 feet of this large gathering space here. And I think the highest and best use of this adjacent space, directly adjacent, would be a small prayer chapel. It could also just be an extension of your larger space, but as we're showing it here, we're showing a break in the interior at this location, so you get a very small, very purposeful prayer chapel that could have as few as 10 chairs sitting in it, looking out through a plane of glass which looks into this water feature area. So we see this as being a very directed view, very personal experience, and something that would constantly be changing with the play of light off of the water and also just the sun changing throughout the day in that space. As you move to the right from that, this is a planter that's directly adjacent, which takes the place of this existing grass. So this is also an intention to build some layers. Right now, the building just meets the ground in a somewhat abrupt way, and so this creates another layer. This would be a cast-in-place concrete element that becomes the outer edge of this water feature, becomes something you can sit on. It also becomes the planter edge and a moment for branding. We're showing God is able again echoed on the outside, which you'll see in our interior rendering is something that we play with as well. Preceding that, this forecourt is a play of different types of exposed aggregate with potentially titanium dioxide to lighten it, so it becomes somewhat architectural concrete. And we're also using these large sort of monoliths of just concrete that serve as benches and also just to break up the space and to create a little bit of separation between the road traffic that's just beyond. In the foreground here, we have a planter that runs continuous along the street all the way out to the adjacent street to the west. On this section of the building, we're proposing a light wood or wood tone mullion system that replaces the existing, and also finishing out this roof line. If you look here, this roof line has a notch cut out of it, and we're actually proposing filling that in so that this becomes a quieter and more grand gesture, which you can see here. So we're showing an aluminum fascia. We're also showing a standing seam metal roof that goes across, and that's going to do a much better job of reflecting the ambient light, reflecting the sky, and just gives the building a lightness that I don't think it has presently. Currently, there's a lot of moves on this building which feel very domestic, very what you would expect in a single-family home, and a sort of a poorly designed one at that. And so some of the material moves we're doing elevate this building and really let it speak architecturally like it wants to, like it was originally designed to. Pulling a lot of natural light into this lobby space, and some of these are fixed panels, some of them would be operable doors adjacent to each other, and this solid portion here backs into the existing kitchen. And then we're proposing this glazed area here as potentially where coffee could be served. So you could walk straight up to a window on the outside, grab a cup of coffee, and then come out to this little sitting court here beneath the Palabrea trees. The sort of backdrop to this entire scene, we're proposing one continuous fence, something that has some dramatic presence. I'm proposing something that's about 8 feet tall and runs the full length of this back spine here. This provides privacy, but it also provides just a wayfinding element that is the consistent backdrop throughout the campus. In this case, we're showing a gabion wall. It could be any number of materials. We do think this could be executed with wood, but we actually like the idea of doing something that has some real substance to it, almost like what you would see in an old church yard, for example. I'm going to move us now to our next image. This is the interior image. We've actually taken two different images and joined them together somewhat crudely. This space has a lot going for it. We had a lot of fun sort of transforming this space without getting too deep into the weeds into the structure. One of the moves I'll be showing you is we believe that there is another truss just like this truss right behind this drywall. That's the reason why they put this angle in here. I'm not a fan. I don't think this is not beautiful sort of geometry here. It's sort of a stealth bomber geometry back there, and I think revealing that additional truss is something that we'd like to look into doing. And that is what I'm showing here. So this third truss in the image is the one closest to the stage. By taking off that drywall and simply having two planes of drywall that are angled away from you in the scene, so the center line is angled away from you, that does a lot to exaggerate the verticality of the space and really sort of highlight the structure, which I think is the main asset in this space. And aside from that, everything else in this space we're proposing goes very, very light, with exception to the existing pews. These would be simply refinished, and that becomes our wood language. I think for all the wood that we do here, we're going to be matching this existing maple. There may be an opportunity for a pop of color on the upholstered section, which you do not see in this image. Another move we did here is we lowered actually the soffit condition on the right and the left. If I toggle back to the original image, we're pulling this soffit down to door height, and right now there's an ambiguity between these two spaces. They feel like they're sort of in the same space, and I think you're highlighting sort of the drama of this space just by pulling that down slightly and lowering that to approximately 6'8". It feels more dramatic to be in this wing and then step out into this space by doing so. It also just, again, we're trying to eliminate geometry. There's a lot of wacky geometry in this space. Bringing that down to a datum that already exists, which is top of door height, is a move that creates some visual quiet in the space. Another move we're doing, and we don't know if this is entirely possible, but I think it probably should be, is you'll notice we've eliminated these air diffusers. We've also eliminated this light moment up here. And what I'm proposing is that same ductwork is actually feeding directional punkaluvers, which would shoot air or lob air into the space from above this soffit. What else we would resolve inside of that soffit would be directional lights that would be oriented towards these trusses. And so we'd like for the primary light in this space, the ambient light in this space, to be generated sort of off screen. So just beyond this, you would have a light fixture that's oriented towards different portions of each truss. That's going to bring great ambient light in the space. And then we have individual light that is directly above the pews with these light fixtures here. And we're also showing a sort of top illumination. This could be a skylight with a shutter system, so you can black it out when you are projecting on these walls here on the right and the left of the stage. But it could also be done with LED light or some other dimmable light source up above. But the idea is that you're again enhancing the verticality in the space, and you're also suggesting that it goes beyond. That if you could stand here on the stage and look up, it would go all the way to the sky. And moves like that, putting light sources just off screen, and again right here, that does a lot to create a space which feels expansive, almost like it goes on forever. But again, as you can see here, this is about material honesty, going back to sort of raw materials and the floor raw materials in letting the wood be expressive, and then just quieting the scene as much as possible. Here's this next scene, which speaks to phase 2 for the project. And in this scene here, and in all these scenes, I didn't really talk about this, but the materiality of the existing block is something that we want to play with as far as, I mean, this could either be sandblasted, but what we're showing is a sandblasted and then whitewashed with a warm white, so that the grout lines are expressive. There's some warmth in the materiality. Those are two things that I think would add some warmth and sort of friendliness to the existing architecture. As you can see here, we've extended the parking area to the south, and we're also and this again is something we haven't gotten into the design, the planning, but we're proposing um, removing some of the parking. Right now, the parking goes right up to the building, and I think this would have to be addressed in the phase two variance that we would go for before we'd go for phase two. But it does so much to let these buildings come down into a landscape area versus right into the asphalt. It creates some foreground. So we're showing a painted graphic that goes directly onto the building, and then freestanding letters that would be uplit at night, and those are emerging out of this sort of potpourri of desert grasses and other things that really serve to soften the moment. Currently in the space, there's just a lot of hard surfaces and a lot of old surfaces, so cleaning those up and softening them with landscape is going to be a big part of our move. Off in the distance here, you can see this L-shaped new building that we're proposing. We're proposing a two-story building, which is fairly narrow in plan. This is approximately 15 feet in depth, 2 stories high, and this would be a classroom wing with other programmatic elements that bracket this central green space, and this would become the main sort of gathering area for the church. And off to the back, you can see this datum that separates first and second floor, turns that corner, becomes solid, and then it reaches upward, and that is a gesture which sort of opens this new piece in a sculptural way towards the existing roof plane, but it also is, we see this as the commons. This would be the primary interior new gathering space for events, for potentially weddings, for this is sort of a flex space, and that again would open up to that is what you would encounter as you walk down along this sort of the back spine of the building, and to that secondary green over there. Just beyond that, you would be encountering this new building, which would be opening up towards you as you approach it. So we look forward to your thoughts on this. Thank you very much.